Good morning, students. How are you? Hope all are fine. So it has been nearly more than a month. So we have seen our social science class. So today onwards, hope it will be regular. Okay, ma? So say your prayer. Yeah, thank you. நான் ஒரு நல்லாசிரியர், நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் விருது முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். நான் ஒரு நல்லாசிரியர், நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் விருது முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். நான் ஒரு நல்லாசிரியர், நான் உங்களுக்கு தாயாகவும் தந்தையாகவும் இருந்து முறையாக அன்போடு கல்வியை போதிப்பேன். Okay, students, good morning. Take your social science book. Yeah, take page number 122. Yeah, we will move to third unit in history. So the rise of Marathas and Peshwas. So already in history, in previous unit, we have discussed about the Mughal Empire. Yeah, so can you remember that Mughal Empire? So it was founded by Babur. Then we discussed about Humayun, Akbar the Great, then Shah Jahan, and also Jahangir. Yeah. Then finally about Aurangzeb. So they were called as the Great Mughals. Yeah. So during that period only, so the Mughal Empire became very popular. Yeah. So but during the reign of Aurangzeb, so there was a ruler there was a person from Deccan region, that is from Maharashtra, so who imposed a serious threat to the Mughal Empire. Yeah, so during the period of Aurangzeb, so there was a king, so there was a person named Vii-Term-Ii. Yeah, so he was a great challenge to the Mughal army, so the Mughal Empire. Yeah, so because of this Maratha Empire, so the empire established by Shivaji was Maratha Empire. Yeah, so the Maratha Empire, so that was the reason for the fall of the Mughal dynasty. Yeah, so in today's class, we will discuss about the rise of Marathas and Peshwas. So in this video, we will discuss about Chhatrapati Shivaji. Yeah, so who was the founder of the Mughal dynasty? Yeah, so Maratha Empire. Yeah, so he established the Maratha Empire. Then how he became a great person and a great ruler. So today's class, we will discuss about that. So what are we going to learn from this lesson? So in this lesson, you will learn about the origin and the growth of the Maratha kingdom with a particular emphasis on the role played by Shivaji in strengthening it. So the origin and the growth of Maratha kingdom. So who was the founder of Maratha kingdom? So it was Shivaji. So we will discuss about how Shivaji strengthened the Maratha kingdom. Then to know about the administrative structure introduced by Shivaji. So Shivaji's administrative structure we will discuss in today's class, and also to examine how far the Marathas were responsible for the decline of the Mughals. So the great Mughals. So the decline of the Mughals was by the Marathas. So how the Marathas were responsible for the decline of the Mughals. Then to assess the role of Peshwas in carrying on the Maratha power. So to assess the role of Peshwas. So who were Peshwas? So they were nothing but the prime officers in the Maratha kingdom. But later they extend their power and they began to rule by their own. So Peshwas, so literally they were the prime ministers of the Maratha kingdom. But later, so they declared their independence and they became the real ruler in the Maratha kingdom. Okay. So learning objectives to trace the origin and the growth of Maratha kingdom with a particular emphasis on the role played by Shivaji in strengthening it. Then to know about the administrative structure introduced by Shivaji. Then to examine how far the Marathas were responsible for the decline of Mughals. So how was the Marathas responsible for the decline of the great Mughals. Then to understand the role of Peshwas, so the prime ministers of the Marathas in carrying on the Maratha power. So actually in the later periods, so the real power in the Maratha kingdom was with the Peshwas. Okay, so we will discuss about them also. Okay. Introduction. So the rising power of the Marathas in the southwest, that is in the Maharashtra region, so posed the real danger to the Mughal Empire. So the Mughal Empire, so they faced their first danger, so from the Marathas. So the rising power of the Marathas, so posed it gave a great real danger to the Mughal Empire. So Shaji Bhonsle, so he was Shivaji's father. So he was an officer of the Ahmednagar state and later in the Bijapur. So Shaji Bhonsle, so who was Shivaji's father, so he was an officer of the Ahmednagar state and also he became an officer later in the Bijapur. So he proved to be a thorn in the flesh of the Mughals even in Shah Jahan period. So Shaji Bhonsle, so he was officer in the Ahmednagar state, then later in the Bijapur. So he proved to be a thorn in the flesh of the Mughals. So during the period of Shah Jahan itself, but it was his son Shivaji. So Shivaji, so he attained glory among the Marathas because he could stop the Mughal Empire's expansion in the Deccan region. So Shaji Bhonsle, so he was the officer of the Ahmednagar state and he proved to be a thorn. So thorn, so thorn in the flesh of the Mughals during the Shah Jahan period itself. But it was his son Shivaji. So he became famous among the Marathas because he could stop the Mughal Empire's expansion in the Deccan region. So Shivaji was a gallant. So gallant means a brave person, especially in a difficult situation. So Shivaji was a gallant fighter and army general and a guerrilla leader. So guerrilla means, so it was a kind of warfare, so in which the soldiers hide themselves and attacked the enemy forces unexpectedly. So guerrilla warfare. So he was skilled in that type of warfare. He built up a group of brave mountaineers who were loyal to him. So Shivaji built up a group of, that is a band of brave mountaineers. So mountaineers means, so those who climb the mountainous region, because the Maratha kingdom so was mostly in the mountainous region. So if you take the Deccan region, if you take the Maharashtra region, so the Maratha kingdom, so mostly covered in the mountainous region. So he built up a band of mountaineers who were loyal to him. So with their help, he captured many forts and gave Aurangzeb commanders a tough time. So with the help of the mountaineers, so Shivaji captured the forts of Aurangzeb and gave him a tough time. As Marathas grew stronger, the Mughal Empire weakened. So the Marathas grew stronger. On the other side, the Mughal Empire weakened. The Mughal Emperor had to recognize the right of the Marathas to collect their chauth tax all over the Deccan. So the Mughal Emperor, so they had to recognize the right of the Marathas to collect the taxes. So the warfare opened opportunities for the talented commanders who contributed to the expansion of Maratha power early in the 18th century. So the warfare, so which helped the commanders of the Marathas to expand their empire in the 18th century. So the prime ministers of Maratha rulers, called the Peshwas from the time of Shahu, held the real power. So later, so during the Maratha Empire, so the Peshwas, so who were called as the prime ministers, so they held the real power. So under the Maratha power, so the Peshwas continued their supremacy till 1761, that is till their defeat in the Third Battle of Panipat. So under the Maratha power, the Peshwas continued to hold their supreme power, so till 1761. Okay. So what are the factors responsible for the rise of Marathas? So first, the geographical features. So the physical features of the Maratha country developed certain special qualities among the Marathas. So the physical feature of the Maratha country, so it developed certain peculiar, that is special qualities among the Marathas. So that distinguished, that differentiated them from the rest of the people of India. So the physical features of the Maratha country have developed some special qualities among the Marathas, so that distinguished themselves from the other part of India. So during 16th century, the sultans of Bijapur and Ahmednagar had recruited them to serve in cavalry. So during the 16th century, the sultans of Bijapur and Ahmednagar, so they recruited them to serve. So they recruited the Marathas to serve in the cavalry. So cavalry means, so the army, so the part of the army that fight on horses. So their presence, so the presence of Marathas was helpful to the sultans in balancing the political ambitions of the Muslim soldiers in their service. So the presence of the Marathas, so in the Bijapur and Ahmednagar army, so helped the sultans in balancing the political ambitions of the Muslim soldiers in their service. So the rocky and mountainous terrain gave protection to the Marathas from invaders. So if you see the Maratha country, it was full of mountainous, rocky mountainous region. So naturally it gave them protection from the invaders. But also it proved to be the advantageous in guerrilla warfare for the Marathas. So it proved to be advantageous in guerrilla warfare for the Marathas. So the factors responsible for the rise of the Marathas: first, the geographical feature. So the physical feature. So the Maratha country, if you take, it is full of rocky mountainous region. So it gave some special character to the Marathas, so which was not seen in the rest of the people of India. So the sultans of Bijapur and Ahmednagar had recruited the Maratha soldiers, so Maratha people, in their army, especially in the cavalry. So their presence helpful to the sultans in balancing the political ambitions of the Muslim soldiers in their service. So the mountainous region, so the rocky mountainous region gave them protection from the invaders. Okay, then the Bhakti movement under the Marathas. So the spread of the Bhakti movement in Maharashtra helped the Maratha people develop consciousness of their identity and oneness. So the Bhakti movement, in Maharashtra, helped the Maratha people to know their identity and their unity. So it promoted a feeling of unity, especially in terms of social equality among the Marathas. So the Bhakti movement promoted a feeling of unity, say, among the Marathas. In the Maratha region, the religious leaders were drawn from different social groups. So in the Maratha region, the religious leaders were from different social groups. So Eknath, Tukaram and Ramdas were the noted Bhakti saint. So in the Marathas, so the famous Bhakti saints were Eknath, Tukaram and Ramdas. So Tukaram and Ramdas had considerable influence on the life of Shivaji. So Tukaram and Ramdas, so they lived during the period of Shivaji. So they had the considerable influence on the life of Shivaji. Then literature and language of the Marathas. So Marathi language and literature also served to develop unity among the people. So Marathi language and literature, so it also helped to develop unity among the people. So the language and literature, so they united the Marathi people. So hymns, that is the songs that praise about God. So hymns composed in Marathi language by Bhakti saints were sung by people of all caste and classes. So because, so the religious leaders were from different social groups. So the hymns, so composed by these Bhakti saints, so were sung by all the caste people and also all section of the people. So the Marathi language and literature, so helped to unite the people. So they composed the hymns in the Marathi language, so which were sung by the people of all caste and classes. So literature and language also played an important role in the rise of the Marathas. So first the geographical feature, then the Bhakti movement and the literature and language. So this helped the rise of Marathas. So next, Shivaji. So Shivaji's father, Shaji Bhonsle, so he was an officer in the Ahmednagar state, then Bijapur, so who proved to be a thorn in the flesh of the Mughals. So Shivaji, so he was born in 1627. He grew up under the care of his mother Jijabai, who influenced him with the stories from the Hindu epics Ramayana and the Mahabharata. So Shivaji was born in 1627. So he grew up under the care of his mother Jijabai. So Shivaji's mother was Jijabai. So she influenced him with the stories from the Hindu epics. So the great epics of Hindu, Ramayana and Mahabharata. So during his childhood, so his mother, so Shivaji's mother Jijabai, so told stories to him from the Hindu epics. So Shivaji's teacher and guardian, Dadaji Kondadev, trained him in the art of horse riding, warfare and the state administration. So his mother, Shivaji's mother, so told a lot of stories about, to him from the Hindu epics Ramayana and Mahabharata, while Shivaji's teacher and guardian Dadaji Kondadev trained Shivaji in the art of horse riding, warfare and the state administration. At the age of 16, in the year 1645, when he had just entered the military career, he successfully captured Kondana, a fort near Pune. So at the age of 18, in the year 1645, so when he had just entered the military career, he successfully captured Kondana, a fort near Pune. The following year, so that is in the year 1646, he took the fort of Torna. Then he succeeded in conquering Raigarh, which was rebuilt by him. Shivaji was born in the year 1627. He grew up under the care of his mother Jijabai. So Jijabai influenced the childhood of Shivaji, so by telling the stories from the Hindu epics Ramayana and Mahabharata, and Shivaji's teacher and guardian Dadaji Kondadev trained him in the art of horse riding, warfare and the state administration. At the age of 18, he successfully captured Kondana, a fort near Pune. In the next year, he took the fort of Torna. Then he succeeded in conquering Raigarh. So in the beginning year itself, he captured 3 forts. So one in Kondana, and another one is Torna, and another one is Raigarh. So Shivaji's confrontation with the Sultan of Bijapur. So confrontation means a situation where there is an angry disagreement between the people. So Shivaji's problem with the Sultan of Bijapur. So Shivaji became totally independent after the death of his guardian Kondadev. So Shivaji, he became independent after the death of his guardian Kondadev. He also got his father's Jagir transferred to him, which was yearly looked after by Kondadev. So Shivaji now got his father's property, which was yearly looked after by Kondadev. So the strength of his army was the foot soldiers. So the Shivaji's so the strength of Shivaji's army was fully dependent on foot soldiers. With their help, Shivaji conquered many of the hills fort near Pune. So with the help of the foot soldiers, so Shivaji captured many hill forts near Pune. He captured Purandar from the Mughals. So Shivaji captured Purandar. So a fort near Pune from the Mughals. So Shivaji's military raids angered the Sultan of Bijapur. So Shivaji's military raid angered the Sultan of Bijapur. He held Shivaji's father as a captive and released him only after Shivaji promised to suspend his military raids. So Shivaji's military raids angered the Sultan of Bijapur. So he held Shivaji's father, Shaji Bhonsle, as his captive and released him only after Shivaji promised to suspend his military raid. So Shivaji kept his word and remained at peace with Bijapur from then until his father's death. So during this period, he toned up his administration. So Shivaji, at the age of 18, he began to attack the forts near Pune and tried to capture them. He succeeded in his effort. So Shivaji's military raid angered the Sultan of Bijapur. So he held Shivaji's father as a captive and he released him only after Shivaji made him promise to stop his military raid. So Shivaji kept his word and remained at peace with Bijapur from then onwards till his father's death. So during this period, he toned up his administration. He developed his administration. So he changed his administration style. So consolidation of Maratha power. So after his father's death, so Shivaji, so he again started his military raid. So and he conquered Javali in the year 1656 from the Maratha chief Chandrarao More. So Shivaji, he resumed his raids after his father's death and he conquered Javali from the Maratha chief Chandrarao More. He also reduced all the lesser Maratha chief around Pune to subordination, that is to have less power. The soldiers of Bijapur from the hill fortress acquired by the Sultan of Bijapur were driven out and replaced with his own commanders. So he reduced all the lesser Maratha chief around the Pune region to have less power. So the soldiers of Bijapur from the hill fortress acquired by Sultan of Bijapur were driven out and they were replaced with his own commanders. So these moves and the defeat of Bijapur army sent to punish Shivaji alarmed the Mughal officials. So this move Yeah, so that is he captured the forts near the Bijapur and also the defeat of the Bijapur army. So alarmed the Mughal officials. Yeah, when the Mughals made a severe expedition, so Shivaji boldly confronted them. So Shivaji faced boldly the Mughals expedition. Yeah. In 1659, he killed Afzal Khan, a notable general of Bijapur. In the year 1659, he killed Afzal Khan, a notable general of the Bijapur. In the year 1663, he wounded and chased away the Mughal general and Aurangzeb's uncle Shaista Khan. Yes, in the year 1663, he wounded and chased away the Mughal general and Aurangzeb's uncle Shaista Khan. Aurangzeb, yeah, you know about him. Yeah. So to cap this bold act, he audaciously directed his soldiers to plunder Surat. Yeah. So to cap this bold act, yeah. So to in the height of this bold acts, so he take risk. So by directing his soldiers to plunder Surat, so one of the major Mughal port on the Arabian Sea. Yeah, so to cap this bold act, that is, he already do a lot of activities that were against the Mughals. Yeah, so to cap these bold acts, he directed his soldiers to plunder Surat in the year 1664. So the Surat, so it was the major Mughal port on the Arabian Sea. So Shivaji and Aurangzeb. So after Shivaji plundered Surat, Aurangzeb swung into action. So after Shivaji plundered Surat, so the great Mughal port, so on the Arabian Sea, Aurangzeb now decided to enter into action. An army under the command of a Rajput general, Raja Jai Singh, was ordered to destroy Shivaji and annex Bijapur. So an army under the command of a Rajput general, Raja Jai Singh, was ordered to destroy Shivaji, was asked to defeat Shivaji and annex Bijapur. But Shivaji sought peace and yielded the fortress he had seized and accepted the service as a Mansabdar in the Mughal service for the conquest of Bijapur. So Shivaji finally sought for peace and he gave up the fortress and he yielded the fortresses he had seized and he accepted the service as a Mansabdar. He also agreed to visit the imperial court at Agra on the advice of Raja Jai Singh. But he faced humiliation, so which led him to escape by hiding in a basket. Aurangzeb sent an army under the command of Rajput general Raja Jai Singh. So Shivaji finally sought peace and he accepted the service of Mansabdar in the Mughal Empire for the conquest of Bijapur. So Shivaji also agreed to visit the imperial court at Agra. But there, he was not treated in a respectful manner in Aurangzeb court. So he was also ordered to be arrested by Aurangzeb. So Shivaji was ordered to be arrested. So Shivaji escaped from prison by hiding himself in a basket. Aurangzeb, now determined to stop the Maratha interference in his expeditions against the Deccan kingdom. He attempted to patch up with Shivaji, but those efforts failed. Aurangzeb wanted to extend his empire in the south. So he wanted to stop the Maratha interference in his expedition against the Deccan kingdoms. He attempted to patch up with Shivaji, was failed. In 1670, the Mughal army was helpless when Shivaji again plundered Surat. In 1670, the Mughal army was helpless when Shivaji again plundered the Surat, the port city. In 1674, Shivaji crowned himself by assuming the title Chhatrapati, and the coronation of Shivaji was celebrated with this great splendor, that is, great impressive beauty, at Raigarh. At the occasion was the founding of a new kingdom and a new dynasty. In the year 1674, Shivaji crowned himself as the king, with the title Chhatrapati, in the fort of Raigarh. Shivaji's aged mother Jijabai, who had lived to see her son crowned as the king, passed away a few days after the coronation with her life wish fulfilled. Shivaji's aged mother Jijabai, who had lived to see her son crowned as a king, passed away a few days after the coronation. Coronation means a ceremony in which a crown is formally placed on the head of a king or queen. So Shivaji spent his last years trying to bring his son Shambhuji into his way, as he had defected to the Mughals. So Shivaji spent his last years trying to bring his son Shambhuji into his way, because he was under the Mughals, because he was very weak. He was not powerful, brave as like his father. He fell ill with fever and dysentery and died in the year 1680. So Shivaji fell ill with fever and dysentery and he died in the year 1680. So Maratha administration under Shivaji. So Shivaji's political system consists of three circles. So Shivaji's political system consists of three circles, and the center was the Swaraj. So Shivaji's political system consists of three circles. So center was the Swaraj. So Shivaji was caring and he would not allow the people to be harassed. So that is to do things that harm the people in any way. In the second circle, Shivaji claimed the power, but he did not administer them himself. So in the second circle, so Shivaji claimed suzerainty. So suzerainty means the right of one country to control another country, but he did not administer them himself. He protected the people from loot and plunder, for which they were required to pay chaud, that is 1/4 of the revenue as a protection money, and Shardeshmukhi, an extra 1/10 as the chieftains do. In the third circle, Shivaji's only objective was plunder. So he plundered the wealth from the nearby countries. That is, he often went for expedition to the nearby countries and plundered the wealth and plundered the money from the nearby kingdoms, and he spent those money for the welfare of his own people. So Shivaji's political system consisted of three circles, and the center was the Swaraj. In the second circle, so Shivaji claimed suzerainty, and in the third circle, so Shivaji's only objective was plunder. So Shivaji protected the people from loot and plunder, for which they had to pay tax. So like chaud, so 1/4 of the revenue as a protection money, and Shardeshmukhi, so as 1/10 of the money as the chieftains do. Shivaji's political system so consisted of three circles. Deshmukhs, so they held sway over rural regions, and their control was over between 20 and 100 villages. So Deshmukh, so they had control over between 20 to 100 villages. Each village had a powerful headman, that is Patil, who was assisted by a village accountant of a keeper of records called as Kulkarni. So each village had a powerful headman, so called as Patil. So he was assisted by a village accountant. So he was also a keeper of records, so who was called as Kulkarni. In the absence of a strong central government, these local community level officials functioned as a true government. So there is no strong central government. But this local community, that is Patil and Kulkarni, so functioned as a true government. So Deshmukhs, so they held sway over rural regions, and their control was over between 20 to 100 villages. Each village was under a powerful headman Patil, so who was assisted by a village accountant, who also act as a keeper of records. In the absence of a strong central government, these local community level officials functioned as a true government. An army. So how Shivaji maintained his army? Shivaji gave the most important attention to his army and training of its personnel. So Shivaji gave utmost attention, so the most attention to his army. In the beginning, the backbone of his army was infantry. So infantry, the foot soldiers. But as his campaign extended into the plains, his cavalry grew in size and importance. So in the beginning, so Shivaji gave his importance to infantry. But when his campaigns extended to the plains, he gave importance to cavalry also. Every soldier was selected personally by Shivaji and was taken into service on the assurance of a soldier already in service. So every soldier was selected personally by Shivaji. So Shivaji, so personally he himself selected the soldiers. So Shivaji took great care in the maintenance and security of his fort. So Shivaji took care of his fort also. So retired captains, so holding a high reputation, that is opinion that people have about what something is like. So retired captains, so retired soldiers, retired commanders. So they were put in charge of the protecting the fort. So Shivaji took great care into maintenance and security of his fort. So retired captains holding a high reputation, a good name, were put in charge of guarding, of protecting those fort. Ashtapradhan. So Shivaji designated 8 ministers as the Ashtapradhan, each holding an important portfolio. So portfolio means department. So Shivaji designated 8 ministers as the Ashtapradhan. So Ashta. So from Sanskrit it means 8. So Shivaji had 8 ministers in his court. So Peshwa was the equivalent of the modern prime minister in the Maratha Empire. So Peshwa, so now he was equal to the prime minister. So in the Maratha Empire, originally they were subordinates to the Chhatrapati. So originally Peshwas, they were subordinates to Chhatrapati, but in course of time. But in later period, especially from the time of Shahu Maharaja, Peshwa became the real Maratha ruler, while Chhatrapati was reduced to the position of a nominal ruler. So the prime minister, so the Peshwa, so now they were equivalent to the modern day prime ministers. So Peshwa, so one of the Ashtapradhan. So they were initially subordinate. So they were initially under the Chhatrapati. But in course of time, especially from the time of Shahu Maharaja, Peshwa, so they became the real ruler of the Maratha Empire. But the Chhatrapatis, so they reduced to the position of a nominal ruler. Ashtapradhan, so designated as the 8 ministers. So in the court of Shivaji, so they hold important departments. So Shivaji was attracted by the Mughal revenue system. So the assessment. So that is, so how to put tax. So how he collected the tax. So from the actual yield, so the 3/5 left to the cultivator and the 2/5 taken by the government. So Shivaji was attracted by the Mughals revenue system. So in his assessment, so he made on the actual yield, so the 3/5 should be given to the cultivator and 2/5 should be taken by the government. In judicial administration, so civil cases continue to be decided by the Panchayat, so the village council, while the criminal law was based on the Shastras, the Hindu law books. So in the revenue system, so Shivaji so followed the method of Mughals. So in the actual yield, so the 3/5 should be given to the cultivator and the 2/5 was taken by the government. In case of judiciary, so civil cases, so decided by the Panchayat, so that is by the village council, while the criminal cases was based on the Shastras, that is the Hindu law books. So Shivaji so had 8 ministers in his court, so together they were called as Ashtapradhan. So among them, so Peshwa, so he was the most important. Initially they were subordinate to the Chhatrapati. So initially the Peshwas were under the Chhatrapati, but in course of time, especially during the time of Shahu Maharaja onwards, so Peshwa, so they became the real ruler, real Maratha ruler, while the Chhatrapati was reduced to the position of a nominal ruler. So Shivaji, he was attracted by the Mughal revenue system. So the assessments were made on the actual yield with 3/5 left to the cultivator and 2/5 taken by the government. In judicial administration, so civil cases continue to be decided by the Panchayat, the village council, while the criminal cases was based on the Shastras, the Hindu law books. So okay, who were the Ashtapradhans, the 8 ministers? So first Peshwa, so he was also called as Pant Pradhan. So that is, so he was a prime minister. Then Amatya or Mazumdar, so he was the finance minister. So Amatya or Mazumdar, so he was the finance minister. Then Shurunavis or Sachiv, so he was the secretary. So Shurunavis or Sachiv, so he was the secretary. Then Vakya Navis, that is interior minister. So interior, that is defense, home minister. So he was like a home minister. Then Sari Navbat or Senapati, so the name itself told, so commander in chief. Then Sumant or Dubir, so he was the foreign minister, that is external minister. Then Nyayadis, that is the chief justice. Then Pandit Rao, high priest. So the Ashtapradhan, so the 8 ministers of Shivaji's court were, so Peshwa, Mazumdar, Sachiv, Vakyu-Navis, Senapati, Sumant or Dubir, Nyayadis, then Pandit Rao. So they were the 8 ministers, so who adorned the court of Shivaji. Okay students, so today's class we discussed about Shivaji. So how Shivaji was brought up as a great person. So his father was Shaji Bhonsle and his mother was Jijabai. So during his childhood, his mother told him a lot of stories from the Hindu epic Ramayana and Mahabharata, and he was trained in warfare, military warfare by his guardian Kondadev. After his guardian's death, Kondadev, he got right of to own his father's property. Then in his early age itself, he tried to attack and captured the fort around the Bijapur. So that angered the king of Bijapur. So he tried to attack him. But he began to become a great ruler after capturing many places in the Deccan region. So the Mughal Empire, the Mughal ruler Aurangzeb sent an army under the Rajput general Raja Jai Singh. So Raja Jai Singh defeated Chhatrapati Shivaji, and so Shivaji wanted peace. But he agreed to visit the imperial court at Agra, but he suffered humiliation in the court of Agra. But he escaped from that place by hiding himself in a basket. So Shivaji, so he was a great challenge to the expedition of Aurangzeb, who wanted to extend his empire towards Deccan region. Then we discussed about Maratha administration under Shivaji. So we discussed about his army and his 8 ministers, that is Ashtapradhan. Okay students, so take your book and come to page number 132. So 6th Roman letter. So first question, second question. The impact of Bhakti movement on Marathas, then Chaud and Shardeshmukhi. So 132. So first question, page number 123. So see the heading, Bhakti movement under the Marathas. So in that first 2 point, the spread of the Bhakti movement in the Maharashtra helped the Marathas people develop consciousness of their identity and oneness. It promoted a feeling of unity, especially in terms of social equality and equality among the Marathas. That is the answer for first question. Then second question, Chaud and Shardeshmukhi. So page number 125. So see the heading, Maratha administration under Shivaji. In that, so 10th line. So see that bracket. So just write Chaud and put a hyphen, 1/4 of the revenue as a production money. Then Shardeshmukhi, put a hyphen, and extra 1/10 as the chieftains do. So that is the answer for second question. So write it in your homework note and read it well. Okay, so thank you students. So have a nice day.